Hello, everyone. This is Musa with Mofutbol. We have another great episode, and today we're actually talking youth development with an expert, a global expert, Tom Beyer, where he's going from the US all the way to Asia, Japan, and now he's gracing his presence with us to talk about youth development from the US to Japan, back to the US. So, Tom, um, how are you doing?
Mo, it's an absolute pleasure to be here chatting with you. I know we've been trying to sort this out for a while. So here I am coming to you from my living room in Tokyo, Japan.
Yes, and I think you're the very first one from Tokyo, Japan. So I guess there's always a first for everything.
That's great. Absolutely. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. So, for those people that maybe live under a rock or do not know who Tom Beyer is, but before we get to the football start at home, could you tell us a little bit about how Tom started in the world of football slash soccer?
Sure, I'm originally from New York, born in New York City in the Bronx, but lived upstate New York. And so I grew up around that area, an area called Ulster County. And for soccer, to put things in context, back in the day when I was a youngster, Ulster County Community College was a back-to-back national NJCAA Division One champions. I didn't get to play on either of the championship teams, but I played the following year after
Of
that,
course.
and so that was a big motivator for me to get on that team because most of the players came from New York City, and most of them were from different cultures and ethnicity. But then I made my way down to the University of South Florida, where I played there alongside maybe perhaps your listeners might know Roy Wegerle, who was a
Okay.
big star at the time. In fact, I have to put this in because it's my claim to fame of scoring the only goal against Duke University in the
Mhm.
national tournament first round, and Roy assisted on my goal. So, but we lost. But then I'm giving you the short story. I made my way over to Japan, and I played. Got introduced to Japanese football or soccer from my college coach, actually in Ulster, who knew one of the coaches here, and I wound up at Hitachi FC, which is part of our J League, our professional club called Kashiwa Reysol, which is vying to win the championship in the J League this year. There's a critical game today and next week, so we'll see what happens. And then, yeah, kind of the rest is history on my career entering into youth development after I stopped playing.
Yes, and there's also that very interesting part that you just mentioned, as like the New York and New Jersey area, especially from someone like me that just came from France and then come to the US. And typically, you hear from the West Coast more like for when it comes to soccer, but I do
Yes.
see that New York and New Jersey is the hotbed for not only MLS players but also national team players. So, could you tell us maybe a little bit about what's in the water, or is it the pizza, or what? How is that New York is and New Jersey is one of those hotbeds?
Yeah, I think a bunch of things. I mean, New York City being such a global, melting pot of so many different countries coming. But yeah, always you're right. I mean, when it comes to college soccer, which way back in the 70s when I played was very, very popular, most of the good teams came from the Northeast. And of course, we had some from California as well. But yeah, it's always been a hotbed for development. And then you've got, of course, the big story with Kearney, New Jersey,
Yes.
that has produced like four U.S. national team captains. One of them, just so many players, and one of the great players who's a close, dear friend of mine, Tab Ramos, as
Yep,
well.
he's legend.
So there's always been a very strong kind of culture of football throughout the Northeast. And luckily, I was just kind of a part of that growing up in the 1970s. And then, of course, we can't talk about New York without talking about the New York Cosmos and what
Yes.
Pele did and Franz Beckenbauer. And I grew up in that era watching that team. That's what really inspired me. I idolized those players. But yeah, that's I think anytime you find an international hub, it's pretty likely you might be able to develop some top football players as well. So
Absolutely. And you've mentioned a lot of these big names and legendary names. So, is there one fond memory of your childhood that you know anyone that asks you that's the story that you will share with?
You know, I was blessed because I mean there were just so many players back in that era in the 1970s. But of course, I was a huge Pele
Mhm.
fan, and also Franz Beckenbauer. Those were just two giants who still remain giants, even with the great players that we have today. You can't help but not mention those two. But yeah, I probably as a kid at least, Pele, number 10. Everybody wants to wear that jersey. And so that was my idol back in the day.
Absolutely, the blueprint for every number 10.
Yes,
And I
absolutely.
yes, and the debate. So I guess I want to ask you if you were to ask you who's the goat in soccer. Who would that?
I
What is
would say that that's Messi. That's
okay?
Messi. I
All right,
mean,
all
you
right.
can't. You know, there's great players of every generation, but Messi is Messi. I mean, you just give him the ball and he just produces magic. There's other great players, but nobody with such artistry and
Yeah.
so consistent than Messi. It's just wonderful to watch.
All right, I was hoping Pele, but well, we'll take Messi. Spit.
Well, it is an argument or discussion that everybody always talks about. I mean, there were just different players, different eras. You know, Pele is going to always be in a different category. I don't think you can even quite put him in the category of all these this generation of players because he was such a pioneer as well. What he endured to playing in World Cup tournaments, and it was a violent era
Oh,
when he played. So yeah, it's it's a tough toss up.
okay. Yes, fair enough. I guess you said he's probably in a different category, so that always makes sense. And you've mentioned so going from where you grew up to college to we'll say high school soccer. Like,
Yeah.
um, do you have any fond memories of high school soccer? As you
Oh
know, you
yeah.
and I have had a great pleasure to work with Jim in the the great high school Champions League.
Yes.
So, is there any fond memories of that you could share with
Oh
those
yeah.
inspiring high
Absolutely.
school players?
Yes, my beloved Rondout Valley High School soccer team. Go Ganders. That's the nickname
There you
that
go.
we had. I have unbelievable memories there because we won, first of all, two championships. And my senior year, I was the MVP of the league. And it was just a great era to grow up in. I'm a huge high school advocate because of the rivalries as well. And at least upstate New York, where I lived, there was massive rivalries in every sport, but including soccer as well. You've got such a different culture, locker room culture, home field culture, away culture. This just the travel between your high school to another rival high school and the traveling back. It was a wonderful time for me to grow up playing soccer. So, yes, I have unbelievable memories, and also I was inducted into my high school Hall of Fame as
There
well,
you go.
and also my junior college Hall of Fame as well at Ulster County Community College. So yeah, every time I go back to New York, I always go and visit both my high school and my junior college as well.
Now, of course, Hall of Fame, you have to praise your presence
Yeah,
once in a
absolutely.
while.
And
So yes, and we mentioned a little bit more of the high school Champions League part. So
yes.
how would you have liked if you had that chance
Oh,
to add on top of state championship to play?
absolutely. Because
Yeah,
the one big disappointment that I always had was that the high school season was a little bit too short,
yep,
and there was no at the time when I played. It was only the league that we played in. There was nothing after that. There was no real kind of, there's no, at the time, no state championship. There's no way to really distinguish yourself as the very best inside New York. So I would have loved to have played in something like the Champions League. So yeah, I'm a huge supporter of that. What Jim Hart is doing down in Florida with trying to expand this nationwide. I if there's anything I can do, I will do it. So yeah, I'm a very big believer of high school soccer.
Absolutely, and that's the reason why we always bring it up. And Jim is one also that connected us. So he's not only a great connector when it comes to high school and spreading it, but also to bringing people from different aspects to kind of promote not only soccer but high school soccer as well.
I'm fortunate. This is a global game. I
Right.
travel all over the world, and I meet tremendous people. But again, to give another shout out, Jim Hart is one of the best guys I've ever met in football. His heart's in the right place. He's so knowledgeable. He just connects common sense with more common sense, and anything that anybody can do to help out what they're doing, I would strongly, strongly recommend it.
Yep, he has a go through walls for him, so I think he's doing a great job at that part.
Absolutely.
So yes, and then after that, you kind of led to your college days from JUCO to. So could you tell us a little bit more on that progress? Because it's very different now these days, where
Yes,
the kids can just have their videos and um, just post it for the coach to see. So how was your transition from the grassroots to high school and now college and now showing
I have.
put your
Yeah,
name out?
I have an amazing story about my college career.
Okay,
In high
let's see.
school, after Ronda Valley High School, I went to junior college, Ulster County Community College. We went my sophomore year. We went to the national champions at Mercer County Community College in New Jersey. We didn't do so well after having won back-to-back national championships. But what happened was I was offered a full scholarship to the University of Baltimore. Okay.
Okay,
So, for some of the listeners that don't understand, what that means is you sign what's called a letter of intent, pledging that you're going to go to that college. So I signed the letter of intent to go to the University of Baltimore. After they invited me down, I looked at the campus. I stayed overnight. They took me to a wonderful dinner. They took me to a indoor professional soccer game in the old Major League Soccer,
yep,
indoor soccer. And then I had a change of heart. And again, long story short version, I had a dream to go and play at the University of South Florida in Tampa. And the reason why is because when I was a young boy in elementary school, my family moved down to Florida for a year. And I fell in love with the Tampa Bay area. And my under 12 team or under 11 team used to practice at the University of South Florida's field. We used to sneak over the grass at night, and the coach, we would practice there because he was a
nice.
former alumni. So I fell in love with it. So after I signed that letter of intent for the University of Baltimore, I decided I didn't want to go there. So when that happens, you have to sit out 1 year.
Ooh.
So I gave up this full scholarship, and my family thought I was nuts. My junior college coach thought I was nuts. Then I worked all summer long, and I basically sold my 10-speed bicycle the next year, and I took a bus from New York down to Florida, and I showed up at the University of South Florida's training field as a walk-on.
That
And and everybody thought I was a bit nuts, but I did that because I first of all believed in myself, and I was so set on playing at that school. And the long story good ending is that I walked in, I won a starting position at right back,
nice.
and I was voted on to the All Sun Belt Conference team as well, second team. So I think it's a good story for young players to understand that anything is possible, and sometimes when you close one door, another door opens. I took a massive risk, but my whole career, I'm a risk taker in everything I do, even in my business as well. Um, but I take risks because I believe in certain things, and I believe that I can achieve things if I put my mind to it. But yeah, that was my college story of
Man.
how I got to the University of South Florida.
Now that I think those are a few stories that we hear of people betting the entire house on
I
themselves.
did.
And you did, and then even sold your stuff and went from, the East Coast all the way down south. So that's another discussion. So, and I think you and I have something other in common is that Florida is our favorite place to be when we're not in our hometown because uh,
That's right.
almost 3 times a year, that's where we spend time. So I totally understand where you will want to go from, Baltimore all the way to Florida. No one will fault you on
And
that.
even this year, living in Tokyo, I've already made 2 trips to Tampa.
Yes,
So that's kind of my home away from home.
it's an addictive place. Absolutely. So yes, so and then so your college days, and then you've done so well um, in Florida, and so how what was that transition now from going south all the way to Japan?
Yeah,
Tell
well,
us a little
again,
bit
like I
about.
said, that was a in those days. It was the early 1980s. The old North American Soccer League, as we call it, NASL,
Yep.
um, had folded. There was no real legitimate organized professional football, soccer. So again, like I said, I made my way over to Japan to some friends and introductions, and I wound up same thing with my team here in Japan. I went as basically a walk on. I wasn't recruited. I just found a way to get into the training, and I spent a short time, not a long career playing, but at Hitachi. I was the first foreigner to ever step foot onto the training pitch there,
Okay.
and first American in Japan as well, perhaps even in Asia. But that was an incredible experience. And then when I stopped playing, I just fell in love with Japan, like most people do that ever come here. And I remained here, and I wanted to obviously figure out a way to feed myself. So I figured out, well, youth development would be my meal ticket, so to speak. And then I've got lots of other anecdotal stories of how I kicked off my youth development kind of coaching career here, as you'd like to call it.
Yep, and that's definitely impressive because you did a walkout. So it sounds like you're definitely someone that puts everything and
Mhm.
bets on himself quite a lot. Because it looks like every stage at this moment you've bet on yourself and uh, actually succeeded. So could you tell us a little bit on that experience of jumping from American soccer to now Japanese football? How was that
Yeah.
transition and experience?
Yeah, obviously it was a huge difference. You've got culture, you've got language, you've got food, you've got customs. Just everything is different. It's upside down compared to the Western world. Being here in Japan, but again, I've always been a risk taker. I've always been someone who has tried to think a little bit outside the box. I've always been someone that's tried to make myself a little bit uncomfortable, because that's where creation comes from. If you don't accept that you're going to fail at anything, you're never going to create anything. And so the reality is that once I got here, I just found ways to be successful. Obviously, there's a lot of luck in life as well, but then again, you also create a lot of your luck as well. So it was a really, really kind of memorable time for me how I started my career here, because I'm coming from America, first of all, that's, carrying an American passport, at least back in those days, which we're talking 40 years ago, back in the mid 1980s is when I arrived here. um, that's a hard sell, because every time I show up and I tell people I play football, they say, "Oh, you play American football, right?" I'd get that joke all the time. Or so, yeah, it was. I was a little bit of a trailblazer at the time, and now fast forward 40 years, and I look at what's happened, transpired over the my career, being here in Japan. I'm actually quite impressed, even by myself, to be honest with you, because I've just was able to create so much, and I'm still creating. I'm still doing many things. I'm still taking massive risks as
Oh
well,
yes.
um, and I'm just always been like that, And I think that what happens is that your childhood, your family, your friends, they obviously have a huge influence on who you are, and then that kind of plays out in life. There's lots of streets and roads and paths that we go down. There's lots of doors that we enter, we exit, and I've just tried to make the best decisions I can. They're not always the best decisions. I've made lots of mistakes over my career as well, but usually those mistakes have paid off, because I am a kind of person who looks at the glass half full instead of being half empty, and that's just the way that I have lived my life and my career as well.
has worked out so far, so can't complain about that one. So yes, so from your playing days, then it looks like then you looked into the youth development, and you've started um, wrote in that book, "Football Starts at Home." So could you tell us a little bit more on how that came about
Sure.
first?
I guess probably before I dive head into football starts at home first. Before that is probably the important part. Um, I set out after I stopped playing. I set out to be kind of what we call a football or soccer clinician,
Okay.
which basically was going around. I was going around the country with a couple of former players as well, doing these football or soccer events for kids. And so what happened was is that gave me a network. That put me out in the community. We have 47 states here in Japan. I've been to all of them. I've done over 2,000 events for 500,000 kids and coaches. Um, and then also, I decided to specialize in technical skill development. So I brought a coaching methodology from Europe here to Japan, which has become very, very popular here in Japan. And what we did was we created these football schools throughout the country. And back starting in 1992 or three ish, we opened one school, then two schools, three schools. Now, fast forward 32 years later, and there's 150 of these schools in Japan,
Oh,
and they focus primarily on teaching and learning technical skills. I spun out of that. I was the face of it for about 15, 16 years, but then I left it about as 15, 16 years ago. And then that's more the entree of the how did I come up with this concept of football starting at home, which was really born out of the real kind of real life experience with my own boys, my two sons, um, and seeing how little toddlers, um, you know, the environment that they live in. But I was always put it this way: I was always coaching other people's kids, but now I had my own kids.
sure.
So I set out on this kind of mission to see. Okay, well, I'm coaching other people's kids. How can I do with my own kids? So I placed all these little balls in around my house, these tiny little miniature balls, and I discouraged my boys, my son, from kicking. And that's because of my technical background of understanding the importance of ball mastery. And so, what I saw real time in my own eyes and using my phone to video my son, I didn't set out at first with this idea that I'm going to create a philosophy methodology called football or soccer starts at home. I just did it as a father. And then I started connecting lots of dots and started really questioning the status quo of how we develop players and why certain countries seem to have a monopoly on football development and other ones are almost hopeless. So I started understanding and studying all this and putting all this information together and kind of looking backwards to understand how to go forwards. And then I wrote that book called Football Starts at Home because I had seen that what was happening at these young ages of 2, 3, 4, 5, before ever even joining an organized team, I started to see that children can actually learn and develop the ability to control and master a ball way before they enter into organized play. So that was the big kind of clue to me that the countries that develop the best players in the world, they don't have any better coaching, they don't have any better curricula, they don't have any better elite player pathways or better facilities. What they have is a culture of development that starts earlier than everybody else. So if you consider FIFA has 211 countries, member associations,
Yeah.
and only eight have won a World Cup on the men's side: Uruguay, Brazil, Argentina, Germany, Spain, France, Italy, and England. That's it. And out of those eight, there's really only a couple of serial repeat winners, and six of them are Latin countries.
Yep.
So if you consider that a Latin father is more likely to use a ball as a tool to bond with his child, and hence gets a huge head start. And the football world hasn't caught up to what science knows already, and that is that skill acquisition, as we call it, happens at a much earlier age than they believed. So I started studying football curricula, coaching licenses. I've taken licenses. I've been an instructor on licensing courses. And I started to see there was a gaping hole. There was a blind spot in development. And that was is that they didn't take into consideration culture, environment, family, parents, and basically these kids are getting a tremendous head start compared to everybody else. So there's two types of kids that I believe now. This group right here that has mastered the basic building blocks of being able to, and when I say building blocks, ball mastery, learning how to stop and start, turn, change direction, beat players one versus one in different angles and things. So when that little kid at the age of 6 has already mastered those basic building blocks and joins a team, that kid's going to benefit from quality coaching, or they're just going to benefit from just more time with the ball. Then you have the other kids that are joining the team to learn those basic building blocks.
Correct.
And therein it lies the difference between football development. And certain countries, like I said, have a kind of lock on development. And the reality is that the football starts at home program is centered around parents. Parents, not coaches, for me, are the unlock for football development. So if you miss that period, never say never, but it's very difficult for the late starters to catch up to the head start. It almost never happens. Sometimes it does, but if you've got a kid that joins organized play at the age of 6 and he or she is already technically competent and confident with the ball at their feet, very, very rarely another kid will catch that kid, at least technically. Now, that's not to say that the technique is the end all, but it is the DNA of a player. If you want to see a player, if you bring a group of players together, 20 players for a tryout, the quickest way to see what's under the hood, so to speak, is put them in one versus one. That's it. You can't
Okay.
hide. That's like putting a player under a microscope. So that's the DNA of a player. So if you can, I tell countries because I work with countries like ministries of sports, education, federations, confederations, FIFA. I say, well, here's the Tom Beyer national curriculum. Develop a little army of little 5 and 6 year old boys and girls that are skilled at ball mastery before they enter into organized play, and you will mitigate probably 90% of the problems that cease to become problems with football development
Yeah.
if you can get that part right. And so for me, the reality is that football's failure has been at the foundation phase. That's the reality of it. So that's really my mission, and I call it a mission because what I'm trying to do is lead a global movement that is centered around this concept of football starts at home by educating and shining a bright light on the role that parents play in development.
And you're absolutely right. And I think and I'm starting to see that more where my son now is starting to play club soccer. And I also held him from joining any pretty much organized until 2 years ago. So he pretty
Yep.
much started at 10. But now me interacting with other parents, I'm now coaching. I think the biggest thing that we hear maybe in the US compared to other places is that the parents have been introduced to soccer by their kids because they wanted to play soccer. So
Yeah.
they're actually learning the sports, the rules themselves. So that kind of shows you the head start, like you mentioned that
Yeah.
me, for example, knowing soccer in France, it was almost like a being a French person 101. You have to know how to play soccer. You don't have to aspire to be a professional player or even be a club player, but
Yep.
just being around kids in general, you have to learn to know at least to play a little bit so that you can almost have friends. We'll say it so.
Absolutely, and that's where the culture, the European culture, the South American culture, again, playing in the streets. It's on the weekends, everybody is hovering around the television to watch the game, or they're going to the stadium. A whole entire community's morale or mood can go up or down depending upon
All
the
the time.
result of that weekend. And that's just that. I'm a big culture warrior, I call it. I'm such a big believer that the defining characteristic of most countries. Football is culture as well. But you can create your own culture too. You know, whether it's your own team, whether it's your community, your state, your country, your continent. It's not easy to do, but and it takes a long time because what is culture? Some people might not know. Well, when you use this word culture, well, culture for me is when a family or a team or a community, they share the same values and beliefs. Okay,
Yep.
they listen to the same music, they eat the same kind of cuisine, they kind of dress similarly, they have the same kind of listen to the same music. It's all of that. It's a shared kind of um, sharing of different things that make up life in general,
Right.
right? But you know, and so the culture that I'm trying to create is a culture of understanding, a culture of understanding that understands it in the foundational level. Ball mastery is at the center of it, and also to show parents that football's not the end all. That's just one of the pieces. But using football starts at home as a tool to develop life skills for children because we know now when you play when a parent plays with a little 2, 3, 4, 5 year old and they've given them a little ball and that child is trying to control that object with their feet, which is the ball. That's a mental exercise. That's a cognitive exercise
Yep.
because they have to keep it close, they have to focus, they have to concentrate. There's many things they have to do, but the movement makes it a physical exercise as well. So now you've got the mind and the body working as one.
Yep.
We've got thinking and feeling working as one. So to understand, and this is how we explain it to the parents, because there's a little bit of neuroscience and early child education, brain science that comes into play. And we've found that if we can expose parents to this understanding and this knowledge, they're much more likely to be inspired and motivated to play with their kids using a ball because they're seeing all of the extra added benefits, such as better cognitive skills, emotional skills, because you're regulating emotions.
Yep.
When a child, a 2 or 3 year old, can actually do something in front of a parent, that's a confidence, that's a well-being, that's a child with the big most powerful thing that a child can yell out to a parent is, mommy, daddy, look, I did it. And
Yes.
this is what our whole program is about. So it's teaching parents how to engage with their kids in a meaningful way. And we find that parents are extremely receptive. And when I say we find, because we've actually conducted research into this as well. I've gone to China with Stanford University, a team of researchers, and we studied 80 little 5 year olds in 3 remote areas, giving
Okay.
those kids who have never touched a football before, giving them a small ball, working with the parents through an orientation to show them, okay, what's the philosophy? Why should you do it? The methodology, how do you do it? Giving them the tools, the knowledge, the ball, and basically encouraging them to work with their kids. And we get unbelievable feedback after studying these kids. We also did another study with when I was working with the MLS club, Houston Dynamo. We studied a couple of hundred kids with the University of Houston, together with KIPP schools, which are the number one charter schools in the United States. That are
Yep.
87% of the kids are disadvantaged kids. So now we're able to target in and work with children that are at the highest risk of both educational disparities and health disparities, and basically improve both of them. So that's why I've been so passionate about this program, because it's a game changer for kids anywhere in the world. And the greatest part, the benefit, the cost to parents is zero. It's
Yep.
nothing, costs zero to them. So when I look at football development, and I work in a lot of different countries around the world, the first thing that I look for is, first of all, okay, I did a big project last year in the Philippines. So the first thing I looked at, well, okay, well, how many 6 year olds or 0 to 6 year old kids can there be in the country? And most countries don't know. They don't know their demographics. Most countries, if you ask me, I'll know. But in the Philippines, they have between 16 and 17 million kids under the age of 7, which are 6, which
Wow.
haven't joined football yet.
Right.
In America, we have about 25 million kids under the age of 6 that have not decided to join anything. So if you want to create a strategy like all of these countries that are spending millions of dollars trying to unlock the key on football development, they've got their ladder on the wrong wall. They're climbing up this wall, which is usually the ladder of trying to fix the problem at the elite level. That's they
Correct.
all go to. So we got to hire the expert from Europe who's going to come with his briefcase of philosophies and methodologies because it worked there, and they try to import it here. But it's almost all taken at the approach is the elite side. So the common belief in football development is that in order to develop top players, it all happens at the elite level. But we turn it upside down. We say, no, okay, that's important, no doubt about it. That's the 0.1%, but we would rather focus on the 100%. We'd rather focus on the entry level of every single potential kid that could benefit from this kind of football starts at home, because we're not really necessarily promoting football. We're promoting activity. We're promoting parent-child interaction. We're promoting, improving cognitive skills, social skills, physical skills. It's everything. Trying to get kids off to a head start with movement, which links also to child obesity or child
Yeah.
diabetes. And so when we put it in that context and take it out of just the context of football, we win over the most skeptic of parents. They all would buy into the program because they see the benefits.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of, I think, any sports, but that's one of the beauty of our sports is that um, yes, maybe some have inspirations of being the elite, like you mentioned, but also you have multiple pathway into that sport or outside of the sport. And um, in just the business as well, we always hear the people that says they will hire someone that played organized sports before anyone else because they know that there's a certain mentality, the team formation, and all of that confidence come into sports if you've had activities before because you put your body and mind to the extreme, we'll call
Yeah,
it. So I,
absolutely.
that's definitely one of the big things that I always like to promote, especially when we're doing sports in general. But
Yeah.
you're doing it in a much higher level, and um, it's working. So is there one moment or that you kind of remember a certain parent that had sort of like the aha moment after hearing your pitch and seeing
Oh, yeah.
their kid
I,
develop?
Sure, I've got a whole host of families like that. It's interesting because of modern day technology and the internet and the ability to talk like we're talking in different countries, right? Real time. I work with families around the world, and so what was really kind of a turning point for me was when I started to receive video evidence of other people's children playing out the whole concept of football starts at home and seeing that those kids were actually as good or better than what I was doing even with my kids. And I've got a whole library of video evidence, I could call it. I sometimes feel like I'm a prosecutor because
Yeah.
when I get in front of a crowd of several hundred, which I do, or a federation, or I've been invited into the boardroom of Ajax or any of
Yes.
the big guys, I have to make my case.
Yeah.
I have to make my case, and I have to have a strong case. And I'm getting in the room with very smart people, so I got to be on my game and understand it. And what I do is I have a presentation that someday I could maybe show you the visuals of it because I'm talking about it today, but I can also show the receipts as
Yeah.
well. And when I can show you, in particular, there's a boy named Aiden, and I have four videos of Aiden. I have one at 3 years old, just starting out. I have another one at 5, which will blow your mind, the 2 year transition. Then I have one that where he's 9 and 10. And when you see all four of those, you don't need anything else. You don't need anything else. It takes from the 3 year old time when he's in his pajamas
Right.
playing with his father in the living room. And really what football starts at home is, and ball mastery in a home environment, which is a very safe, protective environment where kids can do whatever they want without ridicule, or there's not five other kids chasing after the ball of different, physical abilities. It's just he and his ball and his dad. And you see the start out period, and then you see the 6 years later at like 9 and 10, it will absolutely blow your mind. And I say that because when I get in front of the best, And on any given week, I'm on a call with the best of the best, whether it could be the former Bayern Munich head coach for the women's team, or it's I've just got a big network.
Yes.
And when I show the advantage I have is that I see the reaction. I see the reaction when I flew up to Manchester United and Ryan Giggs, Gary Neville. They see the presentation and I see their reaction. So for me, that's why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing, is because really the only thing I'm really trying to shed a light on is truth, the truth in football development. And unfortunately, we have been convinced, when I say we, our community, to believe that the coaching is the end all. There's an obsession with coaches education, and it seems like a coach to this day has never really fully reached their the end of their coach. Now, I'm not saying that coaches education is not important. It is, and I'm a lifelong learner as well.
Yep.
But the reality is that great coaching isn't going to benefit a kid that has no technical foundation. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't happen. So that's the problem. That there is now a gate that seems to close. Not to say that all kids won't improve, because I have seen them, but you're not going to get the giant leap forward that you're looking at when you're getting kids who have started later, or you're inheriting 10-year-old, 12-year-old, 14-year-old kids that don't have a strong technical foundation. Now, we might not be able to choose who the best players are going to be that are going to make it professionally, but we can pretty much choose the kids that we're pretty sure that are not going to be. It's so visible. And that's why I believe so wholeheartedly that if you can get that foundation level correct, that's the skeleton key. That's the skeleton key that unlocks all the other locks in the game. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's how pretty much the way it all started. I will say it's that guess just to bring it all the way back is like me watching my cousins and everything playing soccer when you are not even old enough to play. So
yeah,
they put you to the side. They say no, you're not old enough. So you actually have to watch them play in real life. Then you try to duplicate that at home, and then it's just a ball that keeps rolling after that, and you get those kills.
yeah,
Um, so especially knowing that you are in Japan, so and now we've seen that the culture in Japan when it comes to soccer, even high school or pre-professional, has almost taken like the what I like to say, almost in the US, when you see college American football experience,
yes,
it's 10 times bigger than what the NFL is. But
yes,
I'm having the feeling in Japan that's almost the same thing where the high school has taken over like college and professional. Could you tell us a
yes.
little bit about that? Um,
So in Japan, there's an unbelievably strong culture of high school sports.
yes.
There is also for college,
Yeah.
and I'm not exactly sure the reason why. Maybe one started earlier than the other, but our high school national tournament is massive here. And a lot of people see videos of it
Right.
on social media. But basically, it's a very prestigious honor to just participate in the national tournament. We have 47 states here, but the tournament is usually 48 because it will also include the last year's champion, the
Okay.
state that plays as well. And the final game is played every year in the national stadium that has usually around 60,000 people come to watch it.
Ooh,
It has a whole 2 week uh, television show that's dedicated just for the results every day of the tournament. It's massive. If you win that tournament, oh, that's as big as winning a gold medal in an Olympics or winning a medal in any Olympics. You will always be introduced in whether it's a business setting or a social setting as the guy or woman who won the national tournament. We also have that culture in baseball here as well. So high school sports are huge, huge here, and colleges as well. But the national tournament, you can't even compare it. I can't even remember who the national champion of the college in the last couple of years, but I can tell you all the high schools are. So we have high schools that specialize, and believe it or not, this is interesting. In some areas of Japan, a young high school star player, or not even high school, I'm sorry, a junior high school kid would rather go to a big high school than enter into a J League youth or
Wow.
youth league, because the prestige and the popularity is off the charts. So yeah, it's a phenomena here. I don't know of any other country that has such a phenomena at the high school level. You would think that maybe our country could create something like that as well, because you're right, college sports. So that's a good question, right? It's really kind of 180 degrees opposite. Here high school is huge, college is big but not like the high
Right.
school. And in America, college is big, high school is really not big. So
Yes.
again, culture, culture, culture. But yeah, and then also I would be kind of remiss not to say that in America, a lot of it's got to do with money, right?
Yeah, of
Because
course.
of
Yes.
what's driving college sports is the television
Yeah.
contracts, the media, and the branding as well, of these iconic cultures of our colleges that are basically, and I think that's why, I mean, a whole different conversation. This whole NIL, which is name, image,
Oh,
and likeness, has turned
yes.
everything upside down. I still can't figure it out. I can't understand it. Um,
I think even the experts can explain it now because it has
yeah,
become its own beast on
but
top
I
of it.
think to be honest with you, though, if I were to pick one particular characteristic of American culture that impacts sports compared to the rest of the world, it would have to maybe be our legal system. Our legal system, which is extremely liberal when it comes to, or very strict about creating monopolies.
Right.
We have very strict what we call tort laws as well, of having responsibility. But basically, in America, anybody can go out and start a professional soccer league tomorrow,
Yep.
and or a youth association. And there's not really a whole lot we can do. America is the only country in the world that has dueling professional leagues. Do you know, out of 211 countries that make up FIFA,
Right.
perhaps the United States is the only, or there might be one or two others, but I think the United States is the other, that FIFA allows dueling professional leagues. If you try to create a dual league in Indonesia or
Right.
in Malaysia or in any other country, FIFA will literally kick you out by the seat of your pants. They'll
Wow.
kick that member association out. Yes,
That's interesting.
you cannot have dueling professional leagues. Yeah,
And we're about
I
to
mean, yeah,
probably have.
because
Oh,
in America the legal standard, it would not hold up to legal scrutiny.
right.
Being able to say you can't have the USL, you can't have the MLS. So in America, it gets a free pass.
Yeah, and that's going to be quite interesting when the USL have their Division One
They
status.
already
That it,
do. I mean, they've already. I think it was a year or two ago.
yeah,
U.S. Soccer gave the status because they had to, because it's a legal battle. So
yes,
as soon as you
yes,
go to court, and that's why the U.S. now is trying to figure out this NIL thing that was born out of a legal battle that got
yep,
lost from a college football kid that
yep,
was sued somebody. So
yeah,
welcome to the USA. It's a free for all. You can kind of pretty much do whatever you want to do, and that's why we're kind of in this mess in youth development, because we have youth organizations whose opponents are the other rival youth organizations. They all compete against each other.
yeah. Our good
So
friend Ty call them the ABC leagues. So
yeah,
yes,
it is.
yes,
It's the alphabet soup of leagues. I still
yes.
can't keep track of how many there are,
I
but they're
yes,
all they're all they're all fighting against each other because they're battling for players,
yes,
they're battling for space, they're battling for coaches, they're battling for the same brands and sponsors. So that's America. Welcome to the U.S. So that's some of the cultural pluses and
yes.
minuses. I guess you can look at it both ways.
Oh yes, and I've also always asked people if there was a secretary of sports in the US, and they say there isn't one. And I think that's where, like you mentioned, the rules and the culture and the um, just the national program to where you want your nation to be good at a certain
Yeah,
game.
absolutely.
If you don't have one person at the federal level that can kind of help mold that. And I always use like the France national team for us because that's what I know that we all knew after the 98 World Cup when they won and then they won the Euro in 2000. There was that big push nationally that says that now we want to create national team players first that happen to be professional soccer players.
So go ahead. Yes.
Yes,
So
and now we starting to see the result where since then, or almost since the 2016 World Cup, you can see that every year France has a plethora of players ready to replace the old guard, versus others need four, what, two World Cup cycles to get back to where they were prior.
So I'm going to give you a wonderful story that I don't think I've ever even discussed
Uh,
on air or in any interview.
Exclusive.
In 1994 in Pasadena, I believe it was the Ritz-Carlton Hotel. I had a meeting with an iconic French leader of football, and I'm sure you know him, the Frenchman Gerard Houllier.
I
Okay,
see.
Gerard
Bordeaux,
Houllier.
yes.
To put it in context, in 1994 World Cup, that was one of the rare years that France did not qualify. They lost, I believe it was to Bulgaria in lost time. Gerard Houllier was the head coach of that team. Gerard Houllier, unfortunately, bless his soul, has passed away.
Yes.
But Gerard Houllier is one of the biggest thought leaders in modern day football. And so after that unfortunate failure for the French national team to qualify for 94, Gerard became the technical director of the French Federation. He also worked on the FIFA technical staff as well. I got introduced to him by a woman named by a woman named uh, I'm trying to, I'm all of a
It
sudden
was 94, so if you
yeah,
remember, you're good.
yeah, no. Carrie, I'm so sorry,
Okay.
Carrie. I'm having a senior moment here. I forgot. Carrie Serwetnik, who was Canadian, who actually worked for me here in Japan. She had played in France in the French Women's League.
Nice.
She introduced me to Gerard Houllier. And Gerard Houllier, I went and I introduced him to another a fella that I had been working with, who was a technical skills development guy. And he embraced this philosophy of Will Curver, the Dutchman, which
Yep.
I brought to Japan here. Gerard Houllier basically brought the Will Curver methodology into Clairefontaine, to the National Training Center, and to all of the regional training centers. And to this day, if you to go and you search online, Gerard Houllier has pointed out that that was perhaps the biggest turning point in French football, was the introduction of this teaching methodology that basically every year all of the coaches would come together at Clairefontaine and would basically be studying this Will Curver's methodology. Also, Aimé Jacquet came to
Yes.
Japan many times. I interacted with him. I looked after him. I even went after the 1998. I was in the stadium in 1998 to watch the game. I was also in the stadium in the year 2000 to watch the game. And I also, after France won the World Cup in 1998, I went with Gerard Houllier to China on the FIFA World Cup trophy tour, doing events
Nice.
for Chinese kids. So I have a special place in my heart for French football. And if you can see over my shoulder right here, that what's called the Adidas Golden Boot,
Yep.
which I was awarded for my contribution to football development in Asia. And the ceremony was in Marseille, France, after the 1998 World Cup draw, which was done in Marseille. So that's
So,
my
so fun story. So that means we may have crossed paths, but we're never known because I was also at the '98 World Cup final as a
yeah.
young kid. So
I,
we never know. We may have crossed path, or
I'm very blessed because four World Cup tournaments,
yes,
the 1998 World Cup, the 2002 World Cup, the 2006 World Cup, the 2010 World Cup, I was a special guest from Adidas as their football ambassador.
nice,
So I've been blessed with attending many of not just the World Cup games, but all of the gala events that make up a World Cup um, tournament. So yes, I spent French football has had a massive impact on me. Again, like I said, also we had a French coach here, Philippe Trouchier, who was our national team coach here too. Is a very close friend of mine. So yeah, French football for me is always
so you have my heart then, because
yes, I do.
but yes, and it looks like maybe then you had maybe also a role played because I've spent some time at Clairefontaine too,
Yes.
So maybe I've had some of that training that you've kind of introduced. So it looks like is one I always tell people is that even soccer is like a global sport. It
Yes.
is still a very small community where if
Absolutely.
you do right, you will be remembered by others. And if you do wrong, you also will be remembered. So you always have to make sure that you come correct.
Absolutely. No doubt.
And you just
He's a very.
validated that
I
one.
have. I can't stop with football without mentioning my good friend. Maybe you know the Frenchman David Bellion.
Okay, but I'm not
David
familiar.
Bellion played at Manchester United.
Okay.
He was probably one of the first French players to actually play there. I don't know if he was there before Eric Cantona, but he was a big time player at the youngest ages, and then he succumbed to I think it was an injury, and he wound up retiring. But yeah,
Might
we've
have
covered
to research them.
we've
Yes.
covered the French football angle.
Hey, you just made my day. Now knowing that Tom has uh, played a part of my happiness for the past 20
Yeah,
plus years
in
because
some
we've won a lot.
in some tiny way, I will admit it that there's absolutely no doubt about it.
Excellent, excellent. So yes, so I think so that's where the beauty now leads us a little bit closer to the the World Cup that's coming here to Canada, the US and Mexico in 2026.
Yes,
So you've had hands-on development for what 30 plus years.
yeah,
So how do you see US soccer now and leading up to the World Cup? We know that
yes,
we've gone a long way,
yes.
but it looks like there's still a long way to go. So how do you see it from afar? How the US is doing and leading to this World Cup?
Well, it's obviously been a bit of a rocky road up until now when it comes to the U.S. because there's been some inconsistency. Um, I guess we'll start with some of the positives. Some of the
Yes.
positives is that we have so many young players that are playing top flight football in Europe. Obviously, Christian Pulisic, you have to mention him,
Yeah.
who might be one of the best players in the Serie A right now. I mean,
Yeah.
the kid's he's such an unbelievable talent. And we've got lots of our players that are, U.S. players that are playing in top leagues. So we didn't have that in the past. We didn't have them, playing in Premier League, La Liga, the Spanish League. I mean, German League. They're everywhere. It's similar to Japan as well. That we're blessed too, with all of our players are playing over there as well, and some of them are playing Champions League as well. It's, I always say it's harder to get into the World Cup than it is to win it once you get into it.
Oh yeah.
And so there's always a rocky road getting into it. And there's always filled with controversy. And of course, America, because America is one of the great sporting cultures of the world.
Yep.
So they see everything through the lens of, the NFL, Major League Baseball, just all of the major sports that we have. So I think that no matter what we do in soccer, it's always under a different level of scrutiny. Again, because we've got such a America is there's no if there's one thing that we really are good at, number one in the world, is it's the sports and the media packaging. It's the
Yes.
amount of money that's spent on it. It's the production of the product that you look at when you aesthetically watch an NBA game or a Major League Baseball game, the angles, everything. And then that obviously spawns, because it's a huge business market, it spawns pundits, right?
Yeah.
So we've got lots and lots of, and back in the olden days, we only had a couple of big networks: ABC, NBC, CBS, and I think that's maybe a couple more.
There's a lot of them. Yes.
Yeah, and now here, so now everybody's a specialist. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a channel, whether it's online, whether it's offline, whether
Yeah.
it's traditional, whether it's old, whether it's new. So it's very hard to kind of clear the noise. You have to pick your information, or you have to get it firsthand. I'm not sure if I'm really even answering your question, but I
I
think
know.
that I think I'm just giving observations, right? So it depends upon where you get your information upon, is going to depend upon what your perhaps belief or expectation might be of how the U.S. Of course, we're hosting the World Cup, so there's always extra expectations as well, because normally the host country will usually get to the semifinal, whether people believe that or not. You can check the statistics, but usually a hosting country. Now, again, It's another unusual one because we have three countries that are hosting it
Oh
as well.
yeah, that'd be
So
quite interesting.
it's really going to come down to, I think, is this team going to gel at the right time? Or is everybody going to be healthy? Is Pochettino going to be able to find that right system, that right tactic, that right formation, the right positioning? It's modern day football, man. You know, who would have dreamt that the Brazilians would lose to Germany? Was it 6-0 or 8-0 inside
Was that
Brazil?
7-1?
Yeah, it was
Something
a
like something
anyway.
ridiculous.
It was
Yes,
a blowout,
yes,
and it was a blowout to the ego of the country's like psyche. I
yep,
mean, the Brazil loses at home to the Germans, so anything can happen in a World Cup. I mean, that I think that at least now, when I started in the beginning, I started talking about there's 211 countries that make up FIFA. Only 8 have won a World Cup tournament.
yep,
Again, Uruguay, Brazil, Argentina, Germany, Spain, France, Italy, and England. But for me, again, because I'm a culture warrior, when you look at those countries, all 8 of those countries, with the exception of England, but hear me out, all of those countries border another country that's won a World Cup tournament. Now,
yeah,
someone say, well, yeah, England. No, but the English Channel, if you use that as a border, it also borders countries. So my point is that culture is a huge driver. So look at the countries that have been competing and getting close to winning a World Cup tournament. They also border countries that win a World Cup.
yeah.
Holland, Croatia, Belgium. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. This. I think we're getting into uncharted territory here because also let's remember expanded World Cup. We've
Yep.
got 16 more countries in it, so there's a lot. I think kind of bets are off. I mean, I'm not so sure 100% a traditional big power will win it, seeing what Morocco has done recently as well. But surely you do have some countries that have an edge, like the Spanish. Everybody who's anybody is saying this is like the best team that they've ever seen for Spain.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I don't know. We'll see what happens with the U.S. Who would have dreamt that Japan would have knocked out Spain and Germany in group play, man? You know,
World Cup
or
is
at least
it.
beat them. And yeah, so yeah, living in a different world now. I mean, there's a lot more that goes into performing well in a World Cup. Um, that I'm always cheering for the U.S., but let's see what happens. But I think if they can field their best players that are all healthy, hopefully this will be the best World Cup in the history of the U.S. national team.
And they will definitely need it. Yes, and there's also one continent that's also close to my heart, which is the African continent.
Absolutely.
And you've mentioned Morocco.
Yes.
For me, it's also Senegal because that's where my parents are also from. So spoiled. So on that part, when it comes to the African country, I'm not sure if you watch as much as. So is there one or two countries that you kind of look forward to watching and see what they can do at this upcoming World Cup?
I always enjoy all of the African countries that play in it because it's like kind of similar to South American football as well. The players are kind of drunken with skill. They're just so good. They're so skillful. They play with such joy. I think where probably the both the African countries and the South Americans, if there's a weakness, it's maybe the lack of the discipline,
Yeah.
perhaps, of organization. Um, but yeah, I mean, there are always going to be some outliers. But I'll tell you what, the most exciting team in that last World Cup was Morocco. It
A
really was.
hundred percent,
But
yes.
I think that this is an area of the world that just has tremendous potential. It's got tremendous joy just to see the fan bases as well, and what it can do for a country when they do perform well in a World Cup. It can lift an entire nation's morale and just spirit. Um, but yeah, I mean, I haven't been able to see enough African football because obviously it's a lot of
Different hemisphere, yes.
different hemispheres, and
Yes.
it's just hard. I see the players and things, but I'm pretty poor. It's really kind of a reminder that I should probably study a little bit more what's happening more in Africa. But I think that this is going to be just a tremendous opportunity for all countries with this expanded format of 48 teams.
So it sounds like our job, those that cover African soccer, is that Now Tom will have to make a trip somewhere in some of those
I've
countries.
been to South America. I've been to South Africa
Yes,
twice.
yes. But now
I
we have to kind of put you in, in the game so that, maybe you have the Tom philosophy in the
absolutely.
continent of Africa too. So maybe bring up the next star. It's
I've had a lot of interactions with a foundation out of Zambia,
okay. Yeah,
and Zambia, the women's program is very good there.
uh, absolutely. And
Yes,
some of
and
them playing in the WSL here and
that's
they're
right. That's
killing
right.
it.
That's right. So yeah, I would love to the opportunity to get back there because I think the football starts at home program would be a perfect fit for African children and families. And so anything you can do to facilitate that, maybe you and I go on a road trip and visit some of the African nations.
Hey, I have plans to go to Senegal in the next year and a half. So I will make sure I let Tom know. And that will be my goal for 2026, 27 is
Okay.
to get
Okay.
Tom in the African continent.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Excellent.
I'd welcome it.
So yes, so on that part, can you tell us a little bit about, so you're doing the football starts at home. Is there anything else that Tom has in the works or that you would like to push a little bit before we get to the round of five quick questions?
Not really. I mean, I'm really laser focused. If you know, again, about my career in football, the old Tom Beyer focused more on uh, technical skill development for children or players who have already joined organized play.
Yeah.
And so we delivered our message through creating content. So in the olden days, I was doing events, I was doing television, I was creating content to put out over either the internet or through different channels. I was writing columns for football magazines. I was going around to our schools to see what was happening. But I'm laser focused here now. Basically, football starts at home is my baby, so to speak. I'm laser focused. Everything I do every day is connecting somehow to how we can push this program out through all the different networks that we have. I'm constantly in development mode of trying to pitch this concept to federations, confederations, professional teams, professional leagues, government organizations, brands, media. I do a tremendous amount of, like today, media appearances, trying to get the word out. So I'm really, really dedicated to trying to shape football globally at the entry level, and I think that will level the playing field for football over time. But I can just tell you, it's not an easy task, but it's a task that I'm pretty persistent in. I might not be the smartest guy in the world, but I'll probably outwork most of my competitors.
And you have shown us that many, many, many times in your journey. So um, I have 110% confidence that it will happen.
Thank you.
Yes, and so the last part, especially if with the football starts at home. So if there's one thing that you think that families can do to help their kids just master or be best friend with that soccer ball, if it's one thing, what would that be?
Maybe if I can sneak into one is get
Go ahead.
a small ball, and try to discourage kicking and try to encourage more of this ball mastery, this ball manipulation. And it sounds difficult, but you can get online. You can find examples of ball mastery of even my kids or other kids I work with, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, and try to introduce that ball as a play toy. And again, not because the end result is you want them to necessarily be world class football players, but you're going to be able to have a connection point with your child because it is difficult to manipulate with your feet. The feet are the furthest distance from the brain. So we don't have opportunities to build those neural pathways. But here's the other good news: this exercise will help all sports, all sports. So, regardless of whether you're a parent and you love tennis or American football or baseball or basketball, every child will benefit from being able to develop those neural pathways with their feet. So, And really what it's doing is it's developing the ability for a child to pay attention, to focus, and they'll take that into the classroom as well. So that would be my biggest advice.
Excellent. So it looks like my soccer players might not like that, but I will record that part, the no shooting. I will
Yeah.
keep it because even before practice starts, the first thing I think all of them, and even kids that are playing on the other fields, they take the ball, they see the net. That is the first thing they do is wants to shoot.
Yep,
And
I got
is and I keep screaming. I was like, just take the ball and dribble around, run. But no, then you see the net moving. So
Well, you see, the thing is too, though, we have to make a differentiation that when you're dealing with much older kids and they're starting, the problem is that a 3 year old and a 13-year-old, they're at the same technical ability if they're both starting out.
right.
That's the reality of it, right? They're all
Yes.
beginners. They're all beginners. But the point is that if you're dealing with a little infant, then you want to make it more of a one-on-one. You want to make it more of a playtime. A
Yes.
13-year-old doesn't really need to have the parent involved too much. They can do
No.
things. They have cognitive, abilities to be able to process and reason and understand things.
Most of the time.
So yeah, but little children basically have to be nurtured, right? And they
Yes.
have to be under the guidance of a parent. So that's the importance of giving that knowledge to parents.
Excellent, excellent. So yes, so quick interview questions. We'll say
Sure.
three of them. So the first one, I think you've answered it. You said Messi.
Yes.
So the second one is if you had the chance to meet any other soccer legends and to be able to pitch them football starts at home, who would that be?
That would be Ronaldo.
The which one?
That's a good question.
Yes.
That's a good question. Okay, well, there's a little caveat on it.
Okay.
I might be cheating a little bit. The reason I say Ronaldo is because he speaks very good English,
Okay.
and
Yes.
so I wouldn't have to use a translator
Okay. So
to
that's
communicate with
CR9.
CR. But the other Ronaldo, my goodness,
Firmino, yeah, yeah.
what a great player he is too. But if it was today, it would be CR7 because he's got very small kids that are exactly the age of football starts at home.
And he reminds me of you actually when the perseverance part. I think that's what differentiate the CR7 Ronaldo is that a lot of the talent he has now and the physique he has now has been built
Yeah,
by him
yeah,
versus Messi was like God given talent.
yes,
CR7 is you can tell he built that
yes,
personality, body, skill. So, and it kind of reminds me of you of what all of the how you bet yourself to where
yeah,
you are now. That's pretty much what he also bet himself. So
sure.
there you have it. There will
Yeah,
be that one connection you can sell him when you get to
yeah.
meet him.
Thanks, man.
Yes. And so the very last time, so if you had a chance to to pick who was going to win Ace World Cup, and someone asks you whether it be Japan, the US, um, how does that work out? How do you
Okay,
make that choice?
so let me give you a answer probably you weren't expecting.
Okay.
I would say my dream would be the final is Japan versus the United States.
That's causing trouble though.
That's
Then
causing a lot of trouble.
yes.
But again, like I said in the beginning, I'm a risk taker. I throw
Okay.
it all out there. I burn the house down. So
It looks
that
sounds like
would
it.
be that would be an amazing final. I don't think that we'll ever see it, so I'll give you a more realistic one. I'm still a big believer in French football as well. I think the
Yeah.
French could again win a World Cup. I don't know. I'm probably not being very useful in this because it's so hard for me to really pick one country because
I'll probably give you that break because it's very hard. Because a
it
lot of
is.
people have asked me the most difficult one was when France was playing Senegal, and
Yes.
then
Yeah,
Senegal
yeah,
beat France, and the whole country of Senegal, as you know, being colonized. So there's huge population of Senegalese that we see
yeah,
ourselves French, and I can tell
definitely.
you that was probably the weirdest time in our history
Yes.
because you're supposed to be sad because France lost, but you're
Yeah.
supposed to joyful when Senegal.
Yeah.
So I will save you that trouble because
Thank you.
you're you're
You
almost
got me.
speaking between mom and dad, which
You got me
you
out of
get.
jail.
Yes. Yes. There you go. That's what friends are made for.
Thank you.
Yes. So Tom, so definitely appreciate your time and especially
Mm,
connecting with me all the way from Tokyo to now the US. So now I can say I spoke to someone there. Next time will be I have to make it there. But with that say, could you tell people how they can reach out to you, how they can get your book, which we'll try to give them the link in the comments. But um,
sure.
just let them know how they can get a hold of you.
Okay, yes, I'm very active on social media. Basically, my two means of communicating are Twitter, which is Tomsan106, TOMSAN106. And then I'm on LinkedIn. That's kind of the more serious. I post a lot of my thoughts and long essays as well about football development. So I'm on those two platforms. I am happy to announce that I will give you the URL to the PDF of my book for free that you can post on your website or wherever you want. And then anybody can just go to it and download it for nothing. That's my contribution to football. I give it away free now. And I'm pretty well known for answering people if they contact me through social media, as long as it's a pleasant interaction. I'm
Always.
probably 100%. I always reply. So I'm happy to bring you into my community.
Absolutely. And yes, good constructive conversations are always welcome. Um,
Yes,
but but yes, so Tom, definitely appreciate your time. Learned quite a lot, and I've we have a lot of connection. It looks like that
yes.
we've not known before. So um, definitely appreciate your time. And for those of you that watch this episode, make sure you like, subscribe to both football, and also follow Football Starts at Home because it actually does. But with that said, all have a good one.